Hello, very good morning and welcome to Sky News Breakfast. The families of 7 babies murdered by Lucy Letby have vowed to continue their search for answers. Questions are being asked about how the 33-year-old neonatal nurse was able to carry out her killing spree, despite concerns being raised. Sky's North of England correspondent Caterina Vitozzi followed Letby's trial at Manchester Crown Court from the beginning, and a warning: her report contains distressing details.
Oh, Lucy, is it?
Yes.
Hello, my name's Chester Police. Look, it's Stefan, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Lucy Letby's crimes are difficult to comprehend. Her victims, babies, so tiny, so fragile, so many. But her arrest in 2018 led to her conviction, and now this shocking title as the most prolific child killer of modern British history.
Lucy Letby was entrusted to protect some of the most vulnerable babies. Little did those working alongside her know that there was a murderer in their midst.
The jury agreed that Lucy Letby killed 7 babies and attacked 6 others. But in court and in police questioning, she always repeatedly denied she had done anything wrong.
Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate?
Yes. I think we don't just notice as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
This used to be Nursery 1, also coined the hot room.
But we now know colleagues on this neonatal unit raised suspicions about Letby months before bosses moved her off the ward, and well over a year before police were called in.
This case has had a profound impact on our patients and our local community, and also our staff, who come to work every day determined to provide safe and high quality care for all of our patients. Our staff are devastated by what has happened, and we are committed to ensuring that lessons continue to be learned.
Lucy Letby decided not to leave the courthouse cells and appear in the dock to hear those verdicts being announced. But many of the victims' families were here, the majority in tears, comforting each other. The mother of one child held a stuffed toy rabbit to her face as they learnt that a woman they thought would care for their children actually attacked and killed them. These are the parents of child L and M, twin boys that Lucy Letby attacked, speaking to media for the very first time.
I want a life sentence.
But it's not going to do justice no matter what. She's taken lives. She's tried to take other babies' lives. So whatever sentence she gets, it's not going to be enough. It will be justice, but it won't be enough.
But it is a sentence that Lucy Letby will not hear in person. Leaving the courthouse in a prison van, she said she won't appear at Monday's sentencing. The woman who hid her crimes behind a smile and an NHS badge, now refusing to let victims' parents see her as justice is served. Caterina Vitozzi, Sky News.
Well, Dr. John Gibbs is a retired consultant paediatrician who worked at the Countess of Chester Hospital. He told Sky News that hospital managers have questions to answer.
Once we realised we had great concerns about Lucy Letby and she was removed from the neonatal unit, why did it take 11 months for the police to then be called in? But that's something that we paediatricians have to look at for why we didn't stop her earlier, but also the managers need to answer for why it took so long for the police to come in. If something like this, hopefully not on the same scale, ever was to happen again, we need to learn lessons for how long it took in this particular case to see could it be done better in the future.
Well, the chief consultant on the neonatal unit, Dr. Stephen Breary, first raised Letby's association to an increase in baby collapses in June 2015. Consultants requested a meeting with management, but there wasn't a response for 3 months. One of them, Dr. Ravi Jayaram, told the court that he and colleagues were receiving pressure from senior management to not make a fuss. Following the death of child P on June the 24th, 2016, Dr. Breary raised concerns to duty executive on call, Karen Rees. He was told there wasn't any evidence to substantiate his concerns. In July, Letby was told she'd be moved to clerical duties after 2 triplet boys died under her care the month before. Following the move to clinical duties, the 33-year-old registered a grievance against her employers in the September of 2016. A number of consultants were required to apologise to Letby formally in writing. It would be another 9 months before Cheshire Police announced that they'd started an investigation into the deaths at the Countess of Cheshire. Well, an independent inquiry has now been announced looking into Britain's most prolific baby killer of modern times. Police are also reviewing the care of 4,000 babies who were admitted to hospitals where she worked. This is the statement from the Countess of Chester Hospital. Acting Chief Executive Officer Jane Tompkinson said the Trust welcomes the announcement of an independent inquiry by the Department of Health and Social Care. In addition, the Trust will be supporting the ongoing investigation by Cheshire Police. Due to ongoing legal considerations, it would not be appropriate for the Trust to make any further comment at this time. Well, let's cross live now to our correspondent Tom Parmenter, who's outside the Countess of Chester Hospital for us now. And Tom, it's hard to imagine the pain that the parents of these babies have had to go through. They now say that they're determined to keep asking those questions and get the answers they need.
Yes, and we should remember that some of those families still do not have the answers relating to what happened to their baby in the building behind us here in Chester, because in some of the cases there were no verdicts reached, but in the majority of the charges that Lucy Letby faced, she was found guilty. And as we know, 7 of those charges were guilty charges of murder. It is a marker of the gravity, really, of the seriousness of this case, that within an hour or so of the verdicts being announced in Manchester, that Downing Street announced that independent inquiry would take place. And the charge for the management at the time at this hospital some 7 years ago was that their inaction, the fact that they did not respond to those consultants promptly and effectively, enabled a murderer. And that is a deeply uncomfortable position for everyone within this hospital community. I spoke to one frontline NHS worker yesterday who said it feels very conflicting that you can work and be part of such a positive organisation that does so much good, but one that also allowed such horrific harm to happen. It is also a question of accountability for those people who did not take action, who did not listen to the whistleblowers and respond to them appropriately, because we know that lives could have been saved in this case if that had happened. And we've seen in other NHS scandals in other parts of the country, former executives go off quietly and retire or move to a different part of the country, to a different trust. Will that happen in this case? And we know that Lucy Letby has indicated that she will not attend the sentencing hearing in Manchester on Monday. That is perhaps one final act of harm to the families in this case who have been through so much.
Indeed. Tom, thanks very much indeed. Some of today's other stories now, and a man has been arrested in connection with a dog attack on a Sussex pensioner in Bognor Regis in West Sussex. A man in his 70s was seriously injured after being attacked by 2 dogs believed to be Rottweilers, both of which were later shot dead by police. The United States has approved the transfer of F-16 fighter jets from the Netherlands and Denmark to Ukraine. The jets will be a major gain for Kyiv, but are unlikely to enter theatre this year. Ukrainian pilots must first undertake at least 6 months of training on the aircraft. 11 West African nations have committed to sending forces into Niger in order to restore the country's ousted president after a coup last month. However, a leading commissioner from the regional bloc, ECOWAS, said they're not giving up on engaging with junta leaders and would pursue further dialogue before any military intervention. A California appeals court says the lawsuits of 2 men who allege Michael Jackson sexually abused them should not have been dismissed. Wade Robson and James Safechuck will now be allowed to pursue lawsuits against companies owned by the late singer. Let's take a check on the weather now.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, low pressure will lie over northern parts to start the weekend. The stormy conditions will continue to feed showers or longer spells of rain into the north and west, while southern and eastern areas will be dominated by high pressure attempting to build in. It'll be a mild and muggy start to the day, with rain over northern Scotland and heavy blustery showers for Ireland and northwest England. Some of the showers will merge together into longer spells of rain.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, let's turn our attention to the World Cup now. Our sports presenter, Jackie Beltrao, is in Sydney ahead of tomorrow's final. So, Jackie, not long to go. How have the players been preparing ahead of tomorrow, do we think?
Well, the players will have moved now from their camp, which was about an hour and a half up the coast, to a hotel in Sydney. They'll be doing a walkabout very shortly out on the pitch at the Olympic Stadium just behind me. So they're here. Prince William is not. The president of the FA is not coming for this match. The British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, is not coming for this match. So that sort of raised a few eyebrows, as has the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, by giving a speech in which he said it's not up to the men to tell the women how to run their game. You need to tell us what you want, but pick your battles. It was quite controversial, but exclusively he has spoken to our sports correspondent Rob Harris this morning to explain what he meant in his first interview with a UK broadcaster at this World Cup.
Sometimes it's important that people listen to the entirety of a discussion, of a reasoning, because sometimes indeed taken out of context some words might be misinterpreted or misused. As far as FIFA is concerned, as far as I am concerned, I think we have shown with the facts rather than the words that we are very open, that we are transparent, that our doors are wide open. But we know as well that not all doors everywhere in the world are open. And together with the women, the women, everyone together, all those who have the same philosophy, the same feeling, and things have to change still further after the battles we all made to change many things. Well, together let's fight to open all those doors who are not yet open, to make them as open as the FIFA one, and open them even more and get, to where we all want to get. And I think if we do that, if we go all together, the results will be even much better than this fantastic World Cup, which was already great.
Do you have a direct message for those who think the comments perhaps were crass or the tone was wrong yesterday, that you are listening?
No, well, to come, to join, to speak together, to move ahead together, to believe in what we do, to believe in doing the right things. Again, together we are all stronger, and together we can change things.
So Rob Harris has just run out of a press conference to join us. And Rob, speaking of Infantino, first of all, he gets himself in a bit of a tangle with his words sometimes, but basically FIFA taking the credit for the evolution of women's football.
Of which they were playing catch-up. We only had a Women's World Cup since 1991, unlike the men since 1930. And it's the patronising tone which has faced criticism from his speech yesterday. But FIFA, he would point to the investment they've put into the game. The fact players are guaranteed some income via FIFA for the first time. If the England players win here tomorrow night, they'll each get £210,000 each via FIFA. Can be more than they're getting with their clubs. But certainly criticism perhaps of the tone. But he's trying to defend FIFA as being pioneers and actually helping where others aren't.
Yeah, and there's still a huge disparity. You've just come out of the press conference, which the Spanish players have given. What is the sort of thought process there? Are they feeling like they're the underdogs, or do they feel very confident of this one? And how dangerous are they?
Well, they've been a threat with their goals, but they have lost at this tournament, so England will take hope from that. But we've just been hearing from Irene Paredes, and she's been reflecting quite a bit on the journey, saying they didn't imagine when they were growing up this sort of stage. The investment wasn't there, and thanking those before them for actually pushing to get the backing. But of course, there are still challenges, and we sense that with the question just put to Buildup, the Spain coach, about the mutiny in the squad that saw dozen players no longer be part of his squad because they quit. And his response was, next question, please. So he doesn't want to address that, but it does show the lingering discord perhaps surrounding Spain's appearance at this final.
And it doesn't really help England, does it? Because they played them at the Euros, but this is a completely different team because of that mutiny. I think there's only 3 players left. So a bit of an unknown quantity apart from what they've seen here.
Well, exactly. They've seen a lot of goals from the team here, so there will be that concern from England. But England have confidence in themselves. The way they've gone through this tournament, that defence has been pretty strong for the Lionesses throughout this tournament. We focus on the forwards, but Greenwood, Bright, Carter, they've been pretty good at stopping the opposition.
They've been really good. They've been pretty good, Rob. They've been really excellent. Rob, thank you for now. Thanks very much indeed for running out of that press conference. Let's go over to Wembley now and speak to Alice Porter, who is with some fans getting excited about the final.
Yes, that's right. Throughout the World Cup, we've been hearing words like inspiration and legacy. But how do those words really translate at a grassroots level when it comes to inspiring young girls out there? Well, Rob Morris joins me now, who is the owner of the ground here in Hendon. I mean, Rob, we've got lots of young girls playing behind you. Just how important has the Lionesses and their absolute success we've seen so far in the tournament, how has that impacted the girls that you are training with multiple times in the week?
Oh, it's been massive. We started a youth section here 9 years ago, and in that time we've now got 650 children playing with us, but only 25% of that are girls. With the Euros that we had last year, and now following on the success in the World Cup, we know it's going to be a huge boost, because our aim's going to be having as many girls teams playing as we do boys teams. The enthusiasm that we've seen, and it really has inspired. I mean, when you get all these ladies now playing, and you talk about Bronze and your Earps and your Brights and your Russos, I mean, they're all role models now to these girls. And I could see the World Cup creating a whole new generation of young people that want to take part in the sport.
And it feels like this is really a moment to make the most of that momentum. As you say, we've had the Euros, we've got the Olympics next year. These are really key events that allow clubs like yourselves here in Hendon to make the most in trying to inspire the future generations.
Massive. We've already seen a huge uptake just through the World Cup of more girls that want to take part in both the community coaching and play in the teams. It's hugely inspirational, and I think it can only be a great thing, for generations to come.
Now, of course, tomorrow, very important day for all England fans, but particularly the girls behind you. I mean, are you going to be doing a special screening, or how many of the girls here are going to be watching it avidly?
All of the girls will be here, so we've got a full clubhouse. We're expecting 150 people tomorrow in the clubhouse. Everyone's incredibly excited, and we're all got our fingers crossed, got everything crossed, and hope for a victory.
OK, well, listen, I hope you have a great time tomorrow. Thank you so much for letting me come down to your club. I'm going to be here throughout the morning speaking to some of the girls who are, of course, very excited about the match taking place tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Alice. Let's cross now to a legend of the women's game. Beth Mead was the top scorer for the Lionesses at the Euros last year, and of course she would be in this team, but she is recovering from an ACL knee injury. Beth, hi there. Thanks for joining us. How hard has it been to watch this journey from the sidelines, not be part of it, and have you managed to speak to anybody in the camp so far?
Yeah, it's been a tough watch, obviously, knowing that you possibly could have been there if hadn't got the injury. But I'm so proud of the team and what they're doing right now. And a World Cup final in front of them is pretty incredible. I've spoken to a lot of the girls. I've wished them good luck messages. I know it's quite overwhelming on the day, so I've tried to message them early, and Serena also. But yeah, the girls are well up for it. I know they're in a good place, and I know they'll be prepared for such an amazing day tomorrow.
So one day out from the final, you know what it's like. How are the girls keeping calm right now? What are they doing? Because they seem like a really sort of fun bunch who like each other's company. We saw some great videos of them dancing in the dressing room afterwards, even though Lauren Hemp didn't really want to dance. They made her. It's like they enjoy themselves at these tournaments.
You have to. I think tournament football is a tough one, and I think the moments you've got to enjoy all of them and take them all in. And yeah, Lauren doesn't look too keen to join in the dancing there, but I'm pretty sure she'll have joined in later on. And I think Serena's always made that clear that when we do well, we enjoy them moments, but when we're back on what we're doing, we focus and we get involved again. And I have no doubt the girls, like you said, they love each other's company. They've kind of been in this position for, obviously, been to a final of a Euros, and they know what's coming their way. And I have no doubt that they're preparing exactly how they have all tournament. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what they can show tomorrow.
How important is that, the fact that they've been in this position before? You know, they've been in this, you know, a night of a massive tournament before, that experience. How crucial could that be? Because Spain haven't.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's really important. I remember the night before the final of the Euros, a lot of us were very nervous. We were struggling to eat. So hopefully them nerves are good nerves, but they can settle them a little easier because they've been in that position before. So yeah, it's a kind of one that will hopefully help them in the long run into this game.
Quick prediction. I don't think you want to do that. But anyway, what do you think is going to happen?
Every time I've predicted a game, I'm no Farrah Williams. She seems to get it right all the time. So whatever Farrah says, I say. But an England win.
Okay, Beth. Good to know. Let's hope so. Thanks so much for your thoughts. I'm sure you're going to be quite nervous watching this game, because I've spoken to you before and I don't think you're a very good watcher. But enjoy if you can. It'll be terrible, but it'll be great at the same time. That's what Lucy Bronze's nan said. Thank you, Beth. Thank you. So there you go, counting down, one more sleep to go until the big final of the World Cup. And, England they have this chance to lift it for the first time since '66. And it's going to be a huge historic occasion for women's sport in England and for sport generally, it is surprising that Rishi Sunak isn't coming to watch this, Prince William isn't coming to watch this. And it does beg the question, if it was the men's team, would the journey have been made? I mean, we don't know, but you would think maybe it would have been, and it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, Jackie, I've got James here. He's going to do the rest of the sport in a minute as well. It is a really interesting issue, isn't it? I think, hasn't Prince William talked about how it's a very long way to go, perhaps concerned about the planet, given that it would be for a very short amount of time? That's perhaps one of the issues. But the other issue is, how many England fans are there who are able to get into the stadium, Jackie? Because obviously everyone at home really excited about watching, but is it easy to get tickets for the final?
I don't think it is that easy to get a ticket for the final. I've spoken to one fan who I know. She's tried on the FIFA website. $1,500 Aussie dollars is the price at the minute, so roughly half it for the English pounds price. She didn't want to pay that. That's not face value at all. I'm not sure if it's easy enough if you go onto Facebook sites and things like that, because there will be a lot of Australians who will have bought a ticket to the final, assuming the Matildas were going to get there, who perhaps now don't want to go to that final, who may want to sell their tickets. I'm sure tomorrow, when we're down on the ground, we will see lots of England fans, lots of England flags, as well as Spanish ones. There's certainly in the fan zones, there's been a lot of Spanish fans, but just less English ones. It's actually bizarre. It's the first tournament I've ever been to where the England fans haven't outnumbered everybody else, and that's definitely not the case here. And if you watch any of the news broadcasts here or the newspapers, it's almost like this final isn't happening at all. There's no mention of it whatsoever. It's all about the Matildas still, the Australians playing for third place tonight against Sweden. It is all about that. Maybe tomorrow there'll be more coverage, but it's so low key, it's hard to believe that the World Cup final's going on.
Jackie, I can safely say here in the UK, we know the World Cup finals are happening. I wanted to ask you about Sarina Wiegman, because yesterday a lot of media outlets were talking about her future, how she's handled that, because talk about her future 2 days out from a World Cup final just feels like it's not the best timing.
No, not the best timing, but it always comes around, doesn't it, when somebody does really well, that you know, the danger is, the fear is, the gossip is someone is going to come in and swoop for that manager and make a great offer. And in this instance, people have been talking about the USA because they had a disappointing tournament by their standards. They've won this World Cup twice back to back. They were going for 3 in a row. That didn't happen. Their coach has stepped down, leaving them with a gap. And the gossip was, oh, I bet they'll swoop in for Serena because she is the best coach in the world right now. She took the Netherlands to the World Cup final before winning the Euros with England. And what she's done with this English team is incredible. 1 defeat in all of those matches since she took over. It's a pretty much almost perfect record, and she will be in demand. But she said, no, I like it here. I'm staying. I want to stay. There'll be talks afterwards with the FA. I'm sure a pay rise will be mentioned, but that's for after, not for now.
Hello, very good morning. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. Now, councils are facing calls to relax alcohol laws, allowing people to enjoy a drink before watching the Women's World Cup final tomorrow. While pubs can choose what time they open, they can't start serving alcohol until 11, which is when the Lionesses, of course, start their match against Spain. Well, with me now is Emma McClarkin, who's Chief Executive of the British Beer and Pub Association. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us. So not long until the big final. Kick-off is at 11. So what does that mean for pubs?
Well, after the Lionesses got through to the final, first question was, can they watch it down the pub? And is that going to be possible on a Sunday? And, of course, we have been calling on the government in order to make that happen, allow for early opening and also to allow us to serve as well. I mean, it's very welcome news now that the government have swung in to support us by encouraging the councils locally to make those approvals so that we can make this happen.
Well, yes, Michael Gove's written to them to say do everything you can to help pubs open early. But how much difference will that make at this late stage, do you think?
Well, I'm really hoping that councils are sitting up and taking notice. Cornwall they've already said that they're going to put out a blanket license across the county to say that they're not going to take any enforcement action against anybody opening an hour earlier at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. And that is something that we hope others will see. The only other mechanism was to recall the whole of Parliament in order to get this amendment to the Licensing Act. So we do need to have something for the future because, of course, we don't want to be in that position again. However, it is a historic moment. This hasn't happened for nearly 60 years. The ladies have got the opportunity to become world champions, but also they'll be European champions. This is truly historic. The nation wants to come together. So we're asking them, please make this possible, give those approvals, or even do as Cornwall has and put a blanket order out.
So, yes, basically, the councils and police, you're saying, should turn a blind eye, are you, to pubs that do serve alcohol early?
We do take our licensing extremely seriously and responsibly. And, of course, we want to stay open for the long term. We are simply asking them to support their communities that want to come together. For national sporting moments, we are the home where people look to join and celebrate together. And wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if this opportunity was taken by the councils and the local police to support not only their local communities, but, of course, the Lionesses? We all want to roar England on together. And what better place to do that down at the pub with a pint in your hand?
OK, well, Emma McClarkin, thanks very much indeed for your time, and hope the match goes well for everyone's sake. Thanks very much indeed. Now, firefighters on the Spanish island of Tenerife have been battling a massive wildfire. More than 4,000 people have been forced to flee their homes since the fire began on Wednesday. Well, our correspondent, Inzamam Rashid, joins me now from Tenerife. So get us up to date, Inzi. How's it looking out there?
Well, yesterday there was a sense that perhaps this fire had calmed down slightly, but overnight and into this morning, the flames have whipped up once again, and ash has actually been falling down from the skies. This morning you can see just bits of it on my shoulder. We're on someone's rooftop all along his solar panels as well. But right now the flames are really whipping up in the northern part of this island, and the terrain up there is incredibly difficult, and that's been one of the main points as emergency services have tried to tackle over the last few days, putting these fires out. It's very mountainous, so they can only really tackle it by air. It takes a lot of manpower to get up to the top of the hills and take those fires out. But we can see in the distance just pockets of flames erupting. And this is about 3 kilometres as the crow flies from where we are now. But there are homes and small villages up there as well, so they will be under threat. This morning, we've seen a raft of people heading down with animals, horses, dogs, all heading away from the flames as evacuations continue across this part of the island. And it looks as if the emergency services will continue to do that. They are setting up centres where people can go, they can seek refuge, as many people on the streets here in this part of Tenerife are just looking up in disbelief. We were speaking to a resident of this area who said that he's never seen anything like this before. He goes hiking a lot in this part of Tenerife. He says that he's lived here his whole life and he's never seen wildfires like this ever before. The authorities also say it's the worst that they've witnessed in 40 years, and it is a complex situation to try and target these wildfires which continue to spread even this morning.
Imtiman, thanks very much indeed. Let's take a look now at the weather here.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, low pressure will lie over northern parts to start the weekend. The stormy conditions will continue to feed showers or longer spells of rain into the north and west, while southern and eastern areas will be dominated by high pressure attempting to build in. It'll be a mild and muggy start to the day, with rain over northern Scotland and heavy blustery showers for Ireland and northwestern England. Some of the showers will merge together into longer spells of rain. For much of England and Wales, there'll be a mixture of sunshine and showers. Central, southern and southeastern areas will most likely stay dry, with temperatures reaching the mid-20s Celsius.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Now, concern is growing that an impending hurricane will make landfall on the southwest coast of the US, triggering mass floods for those in the region. Hurricane Hillary has been filmed approaching Southern California from the International Space Station. It'll mean that stormy weather will come for the sunny state as it endures its first tropical storm in over 8 decades. Now then, let's just tell you that after the break, we've got another look at the day's front pages. We've got our newspaper reviewers with us in just a moment, so don't go away. Hello, welcome back. We're going to turn our attention back to the newspapers. Here with me reviewing them this morning are the CEO of International Marketing Partners, Alison Stewart-Allen, and author and journalist Nikki Hodgson. So welcome back to you. This is our final paper review. But once again, we should reflect on the fact that all the front pages, bar the FT, dominated, and the Star as well, I think, but the Lucy Letby trial obviously are getting a lot of attention on the newspaper front pages. So let's look at a couple that we haven't visited before. And Nikki, you wanted to pick out the Sun this time around, and they've got a rather chilling photograph on their front page.
Yes, they do. So they have a picture of Lucy Letby at a hen party back in 2015. And apparently this was the day before she murdered the first baby. That was her first victim. I mean, you know, she just looks like any other girl at a hen party on a weekend with friends. There's nothing remarkable or that would give any clue as to what she was to go on and do. And I suppose when you look at this picture, you think, what on earth was going through her mind on that day? I mean, it is some of the insights. One of the theories that is posited about her motives is that she worried she wouldn't be married and have her own children. And so you sort of wonder, and maybe it's an extrapolation, to think, well, maybe you go on a hen party and you start to think about your own future, and then that's a that triggers a sequence of thoughts, which obviously for her were very dark. And then, you know, obviously this horrific behaviour, but none of it really makes sense. You know,
No.
You can try and put 2 and 2 together and sort of come up with some kind of conclusion, but it doesn't make sense about why she would do it.
And because she continually denied that she'd done it,
Yeah,
that
of
she
course.
appeared in court continuing to deny it, we can only speculate about motive. And there are pages of the newspapers who are trying to work out why she would have done it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, isn't it, seeing a photograph like that. A lot of the coverage also talks about her being quite an average person that didn't attract too much suspicion, except for amongst some of her colleagues who raised those suspicions. And that is put on the front page of the Daily Telegraph about how warnings were ignored.
Yeah, well, you know, 7 clinicians raised the alarm and said, this is really not a coincidence. You need to do something about it. And they were ignored to the extent that, several of the nurses said, you need to write an apology to Lucy Letby for accusing her of murder. And they said, you got to be kidding. But they did, because they were under pressure. And the wider point, it seems to me, is about the culture change that needs to happen now within the NHS that actually rewards people who speak up and actions their concerns rather than just logs them. It's not enough just to log them. You have to do something about it, and especially 7 clinicians. They called the police in 2 years after the first concern was raised. It's unbelievable. So culturally and systemically, the NHS has a big job to do. I doubt this is isolated just to this hospital.
Well, that's interesting. And also, you mean in terms of the system, don't you? But
yes.
Also, there's also the question of whether it's isolated to this hospital as far as she is concerned.
Yes.
And they are now looking at 4,000 cases at hospitals where she's worked previously as well, just to see whether there could be any connection and she may have committed other crimes. Let's just quickly have a look as well, shall we, Nikki, at The Sun. There's a double-page spread here reflecting or focusing on the note that police found in her home.
Yeah, so obviously they went through all her possessions. They, went through the garage, went through the house when she was arrested, and they found this, what seems to be a very damning post-it note, which sort of details round about some of the things that she's done. There's this word hate circled, which you can see, and then at the bottom it says, I am evil, I did this. And so it's a curious piece of evidence because obviously, actually, somebody writing something on a piece of paper isn't proof that they've then committed a crime. It might be, evidence used to kind of work with other pieces of evidence if you have them. But, it just seems kind of bizarre as well that maybe she would write these things down in any sense. Perhaps she was just so burdened by what she'd done, even though she obviously denied what she had done. But yeah, I mean, just seeing those words written very starkly out is quite chilling.
It is chilling, and I think the police didn't consider it a smoking gun, but clearly it's very interesting evidence, isn't it, as the speculation goes on as to what her motive actually was.
Yeah.
Let's put that case to one side. There will be no doubt an awful lot of column inches written about it in the days and weeks ahead. But in the meantime, let's turn to happier issues.
Yes.
And let's talk about the Women's World Cup.
Yes.
Because we're in a state of nervous anticipation.
Absolutely.
Excited anticipation.
Absolutely. This is, there's talk about it if the England women's team win against Spain, that there should be a national holiday declared, which personally I would support.
I think even if they
100%.
lose, it would be quite popular.
How many times do we have a proposal for a national holiday?
Yes,
when
exactly.
Something triumphant
Exactly.
happens or is about to happen. But
yes, absolutely.
I mean, the sun came out at the moment. That would be a cause for celebration.
The pub owners are very happy also about tomorrow's match because, of course, that's a great place on a big screen to watch this match. I mean, we were talking earlier about wouldn't it be smart if there was a beer called Sweet Caroline, but who knows? Maybe someone will launch such a short, small batch microbrew. But this is just a fantastic boost for brand Britain, really. Even though it's England, I think the whole of the United Kingdom must be thrilled over the performance of Serena Wegman, and these women have done fantastic.
And you know
job.
all about branding as well, don't you?
That's my background.
I was reading a really interesting article about how the brands are going to be falling over themselves to these women because they have such a great image. They play with such spirit, but also they're very wholesome.
Absolutely.
They don't have some of the the image issues that some of the men have, for example.
Yes.
So they will personally do they continue their fight for equal pay. They will also benefit, won't they?
Absolutely. And there are already several brands knocking on their door to say, we want to sponsor anything you touch. Because you are sort of Midas, anything to do with you. And to your point, they represent, honest competition. There's not a lot of some of the dirty play that you see in some other sports which we don't need to mention right now. But yes, they are definitely held up as examples of how to do it well.
And will you be supporting England because America went out?
I know. Yes. Well, I'm a bit conflicted, aren't I, as a dual national? But I'm definitely supporting England. Yes.
Good answer. And you'll both be watching, Nikki. You're gonna be...
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand nothing about football, but I absolutely love what positive role models these women are for everyone. Yeah. They just have so much grace with how they carry themselves and how they behave on and off the pitch. So, you know, I just think it's wonderful to see them do so well.
And as you say, Serena Wiegmann, clearly a very good leader. And has inspired them and kept them positive all the way through.
Yeah, completely. And we hear so much about women in leadership roles, you know, not being able to do certain things and held back by certain prejudices and all the rest of it. And you just don't see any of that at play here. You just see women absolutely performing at their best. It's just so positive.
Yeah, let's hope they get the result they want
Absolutely.
tomorrow, that we all want for them. Anyway, lovely to see you both this morning. Nikki and Alison, thanks very much indeed. And we will see you again soon. And in the meantime, let's just tell you that we've got all the top stories coming up in the next hour, and we're live at the Countess of Chester Hospital, so don't go away.